I'm so excited to have you here.
I know, it's so fun. We love talking, don't we?
Yes, we
What
love
better way
talking.
than to
We
talk
love
about something?
talking and we love talking to each other.
We do. We do. We have that in common. Yay. And so does everybody in your group. That's so cool. Yeah.
Welcome to Wealthy Wednesdays, and thank you so much for agreeing to do the session for us and sharing your wealth of knowledge. So today we are going to talk about Jin Shin Jyutsu. Did I say that right?
Like a boss. Really.
Okay.
You're practicing.
I've been listening to you and practicing Jin Shin Jyutsu and the wealth that it brings in respect of mind, body, and spirit. So why don't we get started and understand a little bit about who you are and what's your story is, and then we'll get into the topic that we have chosen today. Over to you.
Thank you. You're going to have to put me on a timer because I love the story so much. I tend to go on and on and on. So, please feel free to put on up your timer cards. And so, yes, the story starts very early on when, as a child, I used to love putting my hands on people, like that. and they loved it too, right? So at boarding school, I had like 2 or 3 of my dormitory mates, of an evening, come to my bunk and say, well, we were in one big room of 8, and say, oh, can you do that thing on my shoulders? And I'm like, all right. So we would, and then the housemaster would come along and tell us to get into bed because that's what he did. And so then I had a love for that. And fast forward several years, couple of decades. I was 33 when a really good friend of mine. So backstory is I had a terrible spine condition, 2 or 3 spots in my spine where I had low doses of curvature of the lower spine and the curvature of the neck, and the upper spine is still there to look at. And I was finding it really challenging because I was a lecturer at the time, and it was, I'm the kind of prance around the classroom. I don't sit still, being with teenagers who are liable to fall asleep. And I found that I was getting sciatica, and the back pain was just preventing me from being myself. The spinal surgeon wanted to do surgery in two places for me, and my body was saying no thanks. And as fortune would have it, my amazing massage therapist, who was awesome, she had done Jin Shin Jyutsu. The first year it was conducted in Singapore. The training, 5-day full-on training, was done in Singapore in 2002. So she did me what we call a flow for my birthday. This is June 2003. She says, you're going to love this. And it's very simple. She just held my right hip, my inner knee on the same side, my inner ankle, and my big toe. And I was like, oh, this feels like heaven. It really felt like I was being grounded and earthed. And if you know me, I'm all bubbly and all sorts of, and people say, oh, you're really flitty and you're really bubbly and all that. So I really felt like I'd, for once, been grounded. Having tried numerous meditation techniques and done Reiki and all that stuff, this really did it for me. And I was like, oh, this is very special. So even though it cost an absolute fortune, I signed up for the class in August, which is a 3-day, the theory is 3 days for one part and then 2 days for the other part. And I was like, I'm only going to do the first part because I know myself, I get addicted, I'll get really into it. And I did, I ended up doing the second half, and that's been my passion ever since. What happened was the instructor came over to me. We work in 3s for practice. And so I was on the massage bed, and 2 of the other participants were working on me. And they were talking, and I was feeling very claustrophobic and, in a room with loads of people. So the instructor came over to me, Wayne, his name is, and he put his hand, you can see, in the middle of my sternum, and the other hand right in the middle of my sacrum. And I felt like he was impaling me with 2 of those sword things because it was so painful. And that lasted 6 minutes. I was claustrophobic. I was like about to scream. But you know what? As soon as he released his hands, I felt the pain for a few days. Never mind that. But the pain in my back subsided to such an extent I didn't need surgery. And I was walking taller. It just was the business. And that one is what we call the 3rd method of correction. I'm just going to call it that because that's what the name of it is. And that's what you do is somebody who's really, it's the first aid hold, right? You do that to somebody who is sort of in a state of panic or in a state, it stops the destruction basically in the body. So it stops addictions, it helps to stop anything that's going wrong in the body and reverse it so that the mind, body, spirit, intelligence can take over. Essentially, that's what happened with me. So it was fairly instantaneous. And after that, you know, there's been numerous examples of it working an absolute, I don't say a charm, it's called an art, it's not a technique. So you learn about the different safety energy locks, which essentially, if you're into chakras, they're like similar to chakras kind of thing. But there are 26 of them in either side of the body, and then you combine those, join the dots essentially for, according to what you feel in the person's pulses, to treat them. And it's great for self-help also. So I teach self-help Jin Shin Jyutsu now, and I also teach a workshop for couples, for mums and kids, you know, for kids and kids, people, you know, when you hold hands with somebody, your loved one, could be your sister, your brother, your friend, your kid, your significant other in the bus or something, you hold your hand, might as well make it personal, right? Personally, might as well make it purposeful. So holding the thumb, for example, helps each other's anxiety. And then, yes, just hold, just like that. It doesn't have to be a squeeze. You know, just as you hold somebody's hand, that's similar kind of pressure. So that helps anxiety. And you might know that my niche, as it were, it's a very broad niche, is anxiety, particularly with public speaking. So I marry those two things together to help people gain confidence and to gain, along with the hypnotherapy practice that I do, I give them homework, self-help, to take home with them, as it were, for something that they can do for self-help. And it's very reassuring and calming and very nice. That's it in a nutshell. For the last 17 years I've been studying, so it's a lifetime study. I love it. Yeah, you know, essentially that's it. Long story longer. Yeah.
What a fantastic story that you were so poorly and you needed surgery and you didn't have to go through any of it.
Very lucky, very fortunate. That's right, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. It's really important to be able to find these tools that work for us. And I'm so glad that you found them.
Key point, Carol. Thank you. You know, nail on the head as always. I love how you're so astute with picking up stuff, because that's exactly correct, because it's correct. What is correct? Spot on. Because it's Jin Shin Jyutsu translates as the art of the healer, the art of the creator, beg your pardon, through man of compassion. The art of the creator through man of compassion. And that's, I believe, not to be too spiritual, but that's what we're here to do, is to be compassionate to each other as human beings, and to I don't say help, but to be fellow human beings to each other and to offer them what we have to give. And
to be compassionate towards ourselves.
To be compassionate towards ourselves. It starts with self-help. Love others as you love yourself.
Spot on.
Let's get all the cliches out, you know. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about Jin Shin Jyutsu. So tell us what it is. You have explained what it means. Tell us more.
Right. So a little bit of history is that essentially these safety energy locks, and I brought along my little friend called Joe, and Joe has a partner called Mel, because I use these guys, a little bit undressed, I'm sorry, but indecent, but that's how they roll, to demonstrate how people can help other people. So for example, you know, with a pair, or you can even do it in a circle. I like to do Jin Shin Jyutsu circles, holding thumbs around a circle. And these safety energy locks, the points essentially, these mini chakras that you hold, date back to, apparently according to the emperor's library in Japan, which only very, very exclusively few people had access to. This is back in the 1900s. So the guy who rediscovered Jin Shin Jyutsu, he had access to that library because he treated the emperor. And it dates back to Buddha, prior to Christ, prior to the people that we can identify in history as being the real healers, the real, you know, I don't want to say figures, but you know what I mean, the key people who've enlightened humanity. And so that's the extent of how far back it reaches in many senses. And he developed it into a more modern sort of understanding. This, the discoverer, Master Jiro Murai, his name was, wanted to be a doctor, couldn't be a doctor because apparently, as the fable goes, his elder brother was already a doctor, family of doctors. So he decided to go and find his own way of healing people and helping them, because he healed himself from a chronic illness. The family had taken them to their cabin to die, basically. That was the custom, or he asked, but it's all a bit hazy. And he had used mudras, like holding the fingers. There's various different mudras. Exactly. Yeah, this one being a really cool one for breathing, which I'm doing now because I'm speaking very fast. Is and he managed to wake up from that coma state that he was in. So he wanted to share it around the world, much like you know, Master Sui, who discovered Reiki, much like the healers and wonderful people who've brought wonderful things to this planet. So that's how it came about, as it were, because he'd studied the mudras from different cultures and things. He distilled them down, narrowed them down to a cluster of 8, which are for self-help, daily self-help. Now, he then had a student, her name is Mary Burmeister. Her story is fascinating. Again, she's Japanese-American, went to Japan, discovered Jiro Murai. He identified her as being the one who was supposed to take it to the West, which she did. She then ended up sharing it. She was supposed to be only a housewife. She ended up sharing it, helping people with their issues. So Jiro Murai used to take groups of people, groups of homeless people and people who came along to his sessions in the park. It's a certain park, I forget the name of it, in Japan, and you know, asked them to hold various points, sort of the different areas. This one being good for earache. So it's everybody who's got earache, come along at this time at the park. And if you're watching and you'd like to do that with me, this one is going on the junction of the shoulder and the neck, and this opposite hand, doesn't matter which one, is going the other mid neck. Okay, so just if you feel like doing it together. That's right, you've got it. There's a lot of lefts and rights, but we don't worry about that. For self-help, it's not important. So he'd get them to all do this for homework and then come back and report on their symptoms. And he wrote it all up and everything, or transmitted it to Mary Burmeister. She wrote it up eventually when she went back to the States. And it started off as self-help, very much, you know, based in self-help. And that's when, after that, people started to ask her to teach, which she started to do around about the 40s, when being back in Japan wasn't really cool. Being back in the States, sorry, wasn't really cool as a Japanese person due to the World War. My dates are all over the place, but you'll be able to place what I mean. And yes, she started off teaching self-help and then teaching people how to treat other people, and wrote up self-help, many textbooks for classes she was running. And eventually she did the textbooks 1 and textbook 2, which is the 3-day and 2-day part of the seminar, respectively. So essentially that's how the history of it. So just to talk about what we're doing here is the hand on the shoulder and neck junction. That is called the number 11. They used to be called princes, kings, and queens in the ancient texts, but they made it more accessible, referring to them as numbers, because numerology and numbers are sacred in that perspective. So this 11 is all about Libra. It's all about balance. It's all about justice, and it helps us to balance things in our lives. Very much so. And the one in the middle of the neck is, this language it triggers some people. It's the one that goes with the saying, thy will be done. So the universe's will be done. Let me get out of the way, let the universe do its thing, essentially, is how I see it. And this combination is great for hangovers as well. Not that anybody around here would get hangovers, but and it's that aspect of taking responsibility for your actions, right? And owning your actions. And everybody says now, you know, the way to heal yourself is to take responsibility for the part that you've played in any issue in your life. And this is very much the flow that helps to do that.
Yeah.
So so we're going to move the hand from the neck. We're going to keep the one at the junction of the shoulder and the neck, and move the one from the neck to the same side eyebrow, above the eyebrow. That's it, absolutely. Over to the same side as your other hand, a bit pearl. Yep, that's perfect. Ideal, right there. So we call that the third eye, and that indeed is what this signifies. This one is called the number 20, and it's all about spiritual sight. Spiritual sight, you know how we go like that when we want to, when we haven't seen something, or we want to see something in a different light or something like that. That's how that relates. And you hold these ones until you feel like moving. So when you feel like moving, your body says move, or, you know, on board, sometimes you'll just stop and move on to the next thing. But the next step, and we're going to do that because we're just doing a quick one, is to slide over to the other side, the same point on the other side. There we are, exactly right. So that's the spiritual side on both sides. And then we move from here to the same place that we have from before, the middle of the neck. There you are, perfect, absolutely, there you go. And we call this the halo flow. And very recently, this flow has been amazing. It's basically, it goes with the umbilicus, which is with Capricorn. So I'll talk about that later. Where am I going with this? So the wealth that this brings is the wealth of the nurturing part of us, right? Very earthy, very nurturing, goes with Capricorn, the nurturer. And it's recently, so many people have found that doing this flow enables them to release something that they were afraid of talking about, or doing, or putting into action. And this is all about applying yourself. So it's all to do with being able to apply yourself, which is something that I was always told at school I was not applying myself. So I do this one a fair bit, putting into practice, into use, and really applying what you know. And a lot of people have said, oh, I've been wanting to talk about this for a long, long time, and now I feel I can. And that happens a fair bit. So, you know, feel free to relax at any time. The energy runs for a good 8 hours, and it gives you a good neck sort of and shoulder massage a wee bit. So that's it. That's our first little hold for today. So I hope that kind of makes sense as we demonstrated. And, you know, I didn't give you much chance to feel into it. Have a go later on, because we can always play this video again. Yep. That's an easy one to show on camera, isn't it? Where was I? So that's the wealth of nurturing and the wealth of being able to put forth basically what you've been keeping inside. It's very good for pregnant mums, you know, when they're giving birth to something. So that analogy works for something that you want to put out, like my book, right? I did it a lot before the book came out, before we delivered the book, or rather Elle delivered the book by saying, should I publish it for you? And then, yes. So our book, Anxiety and Us, yeah, finally sees the light of day. Like that. And so many stories, Carol. I don't know where to start, really. Does that answer a question, like the wealth of it? So going back to, I'm just going to now onto the train of the astrology now, because it brings in different ancient techniques we use very loosely. For example, one amazing one that I really love, and you might have seen this on my Facebook Lives, is holding these guys here at the clavicles, right? You don't need to be too specific, but it's basically the base of where the bone is. And you'll find that there's a spot that you just feel is comfortable and works. Don't overthink it. The idea is not to think and not to put too much effort into it. This helps adjustment. This helps allergies, anything to do with being in your own skin, being fully present where you are. It helps breathing a lot. The lateral ones, very much further out in the clavicle, is great for weight loss. So about adjustment and getting the body to be in that equilibrium that it, I don't like to say should, but it's, you know, its own equilibrium. Yeah.
It does the job. The word does the job. It does the
job. It does the job, yeah, because, you know, we made that way. And I don't know if, I wanted to ask you this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but when I was doing angelic Reiki, the instructor Kevin Core, he's passed away now, was saying that these are an actual chakra other than the main 7, and these are called the Ananda Kanda. I could be saying it wrong, you know, my pronunciation's shot, but these are actually a known chakra in that system, or in that set of belief systems. And also the base of the feet, and also the palms of the hand. So the palms of the hand correspond to the umbilicus flow that we did just now, that halo flow, and putting the hands together like this. Also, people see this as a namaste or a Y in Vietnam. However, this one is for exhaling. So this gesture helps the exhale. And that in turn triggers the vagus nerve and calms us down. So there's so many connections that you learn about, you know, that our body is doing all the time, and we just help it along by, we call jumper cabling these safety energy locks, because they get full and lock up like when they're full, or when they're overly challenged by food, by the atmosphere, by our thoughts. And we just give them a hand, you know, we're just giving them a hand like the jumper cable of the car to just restart, right? So it's not working with an external energy like Reiki is, it's working with the body's own energy then. So a lot of people say, well, is there any difference between Reiki and Jinchin? And there is, in that, so you realize that Reiki is amazing, you know, as a Reiki person, Reiki comes on of its own accord, and it does, and it relates very closely to the sixth depth, which is what the umbilicus we just did, helps the exhale to help the inhale. And that is very much the unmanifested energy. So that we would correlate to Reiki then. So that just popped into my head to clarify that segment, that little bit, that piece.
Okay.
Talking about the astrology, oh yeah, so when we're here, this one goes very much with Aries. So if you're an Aries person, you would do the lung flow. It corresponds with the lung function energy. And this is like one of the quickies that you can do for yourself. The first step of the flow, and it's not a long flow, but I'll just demonstrate the first step, which is, you can't see, but I'm putting keep my hand diagonally on the opposite, what I call this, collarbone. And the other one's going on the bottom rib of the same side. And that's the first step of the lung function energy flow, which corresponds with Aries. So each one of these belongs to a depth, and then, there's a corresponding day of the week, there's a corresponding musical tone, there's a corresponding color, there's a corresponding all sorts. And I got my cheat sheet here. I don't want to show it, it's quite embarrassingly old. Oh, it's buried in my notes somewhere. Oh yeah, here it is. I just want to show this because this is my most precious thing. I've got like 10 copies of this thing, and it's scribbled all over, you can see. This is from one of my very first classes. Yeah. So the reason why I do that, I show you that, is because as a practitioner and a therapist, one of the first things we do is when we go to treat a person, you'd ask them for their sun sign, and that's immediately a way of creating rapport then with the person, with that entity, with that human, because the sun sign corresponds, says, "Oh, you're my friend," and it will gain that rapport with that you need with the client, don't you? So that's the Aries one. Yeah. So I said that Gemini and Scorpio was covered.
Gemini and Virgo.
Gemini is me, and Virgo, that's right, Scorpio, I'm thinking of Jill. So Virgo is an amazing one. The Virgo one, I'm not going to use Joe or Mel because we can do it ourselves. So this one is fantastic for jet lag, fantastic for exhaustion. You know, you guys, I don't know you guys, I'm not going to say you personally, right? But Virgos, right, different to Gemini, well, I overthink, you know, to Gemini mantras, I think. The one that goes with Scorpio is I analyze. Mm-hmm. So overthinking, analyzing, all that chat. My brother does, he's a Virgo. He won't be listening, will he? It's to put your two fingers in the belly of the elbow, like that, the elbow being where the power and authority is stored. And then this hand can either go where we were earlier on in the center of the neck, the same side. And this is great for jet lag and, you know, coming back to work after holiday, or getting over that overthinking and overanalyzing and oh, you know, what do I do, and making decisions. It just makes things a little bit calmer in the mind for that clarity. So it's either this side or the other side. I tend to do the same side personally, but I do this a fair bit when I'm, you know, when you're in a meeting, you can do this, and nobody would be any the wiser because you look like really pay attention, you know. Yeah, and our bodies, we do this anyway. We do these gestures, and the body knows, doesn't it? You know, like this, you know, that famous Home Alone scene where he's like, oh, like that. And this is for overthinking when you're really shocked or something. Then you calm the mind down by holding these two, which are the points that go with Gemini. So many, goodness. And then the next one was Taurus for Jenny. The Taurus one we can substitute with that one we had earlier, which is the clavicle and the bottom rib then on the same side. Because Aries and Taurus are partners and they're the same. Sort of, Aries is the exhale and Taurus is the inhale. So you've got the Aries, the lung, and Taurus, large intestine. It's a lot of info. Imagine how much you get in 5 days. And after 5 days, they're like, give me more. And everybody's like, I need to sleep. Yeah, I'm a bit of a junkie with it. So. that's fun. Yeah, I really love it.
So essentially, this helps us work with our own bodies to get out of our own way.
To get out of our own way, absolutely. And yes, because we get ourselves into, I like to say, call them pickles, you know, and it's all about having fun, right? So like the children's book is called Fun with Happy Hands. Yeah. And the spot in the groins, I'll show you on Joe here. This is where your nickel line is, everybody. Oops, I just said nickel line on your show.
We can't see it. You have to hold it. Yeah, that's better.
Okay, right there. That is the 15, which is all about the physical body. So recovering from surgery is a great thing to do, is hold these spots. You don't have to press hard. And and we always laugh because one of the teachers, she's a lovely lady, Petra, she's German. I did my 3rd class with her in Melbourne. She was saying, you know, you feel for sausages in your groins. And I was like, such a funny thing to say in one sentence, sausages in my groin. But yeah, the energy builds up here because of sitting all day. And then just, you know, helping that energy to dissipate just by saying, oi, you know, just you can be safe and relaxed now. Just by holding it there, then helps the physical body to then calm down, and the energy will flow. And that, as Burmeister apparently used to say, that holding the 15s at the groin is like jogging on the inside. And who likes to, you know, you can, yeah, and wash your heart with laughter as well. So it's a great one for cheering up, you know, and but you can't do that in the train, really, can you? You know, yeah, why do guys put their hands in their pockets again? But, so it's that sort of thing, and the reason why I said, you know, it falls nicely under wealth is that it's very freeing and it's very liberating, and that's, you know, it's liberating, literally the energy that's stored up, isn't it, that's accumulated, to help us then to find the wealth that's out there, rather than in our own little whatever. So I've been talking for ages. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, it's such fascinating information.
That's great. Yeah, I'll show you one that I love to do, to show clients. You know, so I get a lot of couples coming in. Not couples. I get like the husband or the wife will come in, because invariably the other spouse, if they're anything like my spouse, thinks they're the one with no problem, and that the other spouse is the one with the problem. Yada yada yada. I'm not saying you're not married, but hey, I just did anyway. Is this one where you've got, can you see these guys? So they really wanted to be, they were like, feature us. They're getting jealous for the intention. So as to do this, and just, are you going to cooperate, you people? Is to hold the elbow and the wrist together. Whoops. Okay, I'm just going to have to hold them like that. Essentially, imagine these two are matched up together like that. And that's a really amazing flow. You know, you do that when you're dancing anyway, kind of thing. Just to align the arms and align the wrists, such that it's like that, right? So that's one that I love to do. And another thing that you can do if you're so inclined with another person that you love is to hold their calves like this. Oops. Literally. No, he's too small. With the ankle in the elbow and the heel in the hand, either side. That's a beautiful one to do. It's very restful. That one helps with anything. Oh, it's great for first aid for burns. I've seen that firsthand more than once when someone's been scalded, say by, you know, with a one time a pot of tea. We're having a Jin Shin Jyutsu share. We used to have a group of 10 of us, and my friend literally spilt really boiling tea all over herself. And we immediately then went to hold her calves and do other things at the time. And amazing how the blisters didn't manifest the way you'd expect them to, because it helps the deep skin. Just different layers. Yeah.
So this is a very useful tool to look after our body, the physical side.
Yes.
What about the emotional side?
Right. Thank you. So, okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit of numerology here, because like I said, it brings in loads of ancient techniques. Many numerological approaches take the cycle of 8, but in Jinchin the cycle is 9. So it's every 9, right? And there are 26 of the safety energy locks I mentioned. So the first 9 are for, I'm being very crude here, but for the physical body, essentially. So the one that I spoke about in the inside of the knee here is for movement. That's the number 1. The 2 is the one at the hip there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but 9 essentially is here on the shoulder blade at the top. Oh, sorry, at the bottom of the shoulder blade, beg your pardon. That was the 11. 9 is for letting go of things on the physical plane, and the next 9 are for the mental, emotional body. So you've also got corresponding 3 lines. I'm trying to be simple here. The line where the hips are in the pelvis, where the 15s are, the groin, that's very much the physical plane. And then you've got the waistline, which is mental, emotional. So where the ribs, the bottom ribs are, literally at the waist, right? The 14s, clearing the 14s helps to clear the mental, emotional plane. So emotional things like anxiety. Okay, you see it on one aspect we can hold the thumb, and that's kind of an all-encompassing, very simple thing to do. It doesn't involve any thinking, you know, to hold your thumb. It becomes quite natural after a while. But say to then work with anxiety, I would do something like a stomach flow, which very much engages these 14s, and that is the cheekbone and the clavicle, and that helps worry. So the mantra for Gemini, I worry, right? I think overthinking is worry. So it's not just a negative, but it's very much harmonizing. So for people who don't think enough, you know, that helps to free up the energy that goes into helping one to think in a harmonious way. And then after that, you've got the spleen function energy that goes with Cancerian sun sign. That's all about bringing the sun into the body, and that's to do with feeling. So feeling, also to do with worry, that feeling aspect of worry. And then you've got the middle thing. So I'll go through the fingers here. The first one being for anxiety, the thumb, which is basically baseline. The ring finger goes with sadness, so alleviating sadness, right? And for that, you would use something like the one that we showed earlier on, that one, which is Aries. That helps very much with sadness, that depth and the deep skin. Okay. Aries and Taurus go together for that aspect, which we call a depth. So the third one, anger, try not to do that in camera, holding the thumb, helps with the liver and gallbladder and helps to harmonize anger. So this is a really, I'm flipping the fingers, the middle finger, of course. Anger being just one part of the continuum of motivation. So then if you get rid of your anger, you channel your anger, you kind of perceive your anger, and you're able to master the anger. That is motivation, isn't it? You're going to do something about what you're angry about, rather than just being destructive with it. And then the index finger helps with fear, as in fear, as I call it, not anxiety, fear of something that's in your face, like people talk about fear of public speaking. And those of you who know me know that I think that's a load of nonsense, because yada, yada, yada. Let's not go into that now. Carolyn, get off your high horse in your tangent. But anyway, the fear of imminent danger, that, like we have when, driving on the road and then someone comes towards you, that's fear, isn't it? You've got to fight it.
I do think that fear of public speaking is a great example if you want to talk about it, because so many people have it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, very much so. Carol and I are going to write a book one day.
One day.
So I break fear down into fear, because some people do genuinely fear it. They have the physical symptoms of fight or flight, and for which I say hold the index finger. It helps a great deal. But I break it down to fear expired beliefs, basically, because fear of public speaking is usually, I'm not going to be too generalistic about it, but usually because of prior experiences where someone says, "Oh, you really flopped there," or or they just got freaked out by the audience, or they got freaked out because their body was showing nervousness, right? And so that's where holding the index finger comes in. And then I call for aversion, just aversion of speaking in general. Some people don't like to talk. My husband doesn't like to talk. He's pretty much selected mute, which matches me really well, doesn't it? And we work really well. We've been married 10 years. Thank you very much. That's for another session. Anyhow, so when it's real fear, okay, of some imminent, like a danger that's presenting itself in the moment, the little finger I tell people to use when they're about to give a presentation or a speech, because that one is to do, sorry, I didn't go through the index finger. That is for the bladder and kidney function energy. So Libra and Scorpio. The little finger is to do with the heart and small intestine. So what are you doing when you're giving a presentation? You're giving your heart. You're putting effort into something. And many times when you're putting your heart into something, you're trying to be something that it's not necessarily you, it's not necessarily authentic. People feel they have to put on a mask or a face or something when they step out into public, you know. To me, putting on excess makeup is one way of that. Like it's a mask on your face, not the mask for COVID, which I deem absolutely, why not? You know, you do you, whatever, or a face mask. And holding the little finger really helps to alleviate that excess trying to, you know, where the heart is misplaced, where you're not able to be authentic, to be yourself, and that then, so the trying to on one hand, the being authentic on the other hand, and gaining that clarity about the authenticity very much helps with public speaking. I find they all do. So that's how I use Jinchin to help people with presentation anxiety or performance anxiety, is to hold a little finger, or to do one of the other holds, which are very, very helpful, which perhaps I'll share another time, and you know, another way. Does that make sense though? Because
it does.
Yeah,
It makes
something we can do, and you know, and even sitting on your hand, holding your. This is something perhaps some older people. It wasn't my time, but my mum says the punishment at school was to have to sit on your hands. And yeah, in that system, well, she was at school in Singapore. My grandmother's a school teacher in Kerala. No, sorry, she started off at school in Kerala, came to Singapore as a child, and she had to sit on her hands at school in Kerala, is what she remembers. And that spot at the sit bones at 25's here, where his, you know, literally where the sit bones are. Coincidentally, or as design would have it, help to connect us with our calm self, with our higher. So, like I was saying, the third 9 then work on the spiritual side. We've got the first 9 for the physical body, second 9 for the mental, emotional body, physiology, psychology, philosophy. The spiritual 8, not 9. For the final 8, pardon me in numbers. So that going back to that aspect, right? So sitting on the sit bones helps all sorts of things to calm down, helps us to get grounded, true to ourselves. I've heard of people sitting on buses who have had streaming colds and flu, and then it just calms the body down. My best friend, we went to Cherating, this beach resort in Malaysia, beautiful spot on the coast, many years ago. We went on a bus, and on the way home, she was horribly sunburned. So she's Swedish, right? So she got horribly burnt. I was slathering sun cream on her all weekend. I got burnt myself, you know, despite the sun cream as well, but not nearly as bad as she. She was like a lobster. Yep. And the effects lasted, but she didn't get nearly as badly burnt as she said she normally would do. So it just helps the body to calm down. And another thing that would have been great if you weren't on a bus would have been to hold her calves, to help the deep skin to chill and do its thing. And I call it the aloe vera flow, but sitting on your hands helps your brain and body to come in sync, and spirit to integrate, and then you're at your best abilities. So who knew that punishment, right? Is amazing for that, you know, and it's a great thing to do. Sitting in exams, sitting on the hands helps to then bring the faculties together. But again, holding your bum cheeks isn't a great thing to do in public. You know, it's much easier to just hold your little finger or go like this. This one we do, a lot of people when they want to relax, don't they? And this one is literally where the 4s are at the base of the occiput, where the skull is. That there's a V of the skull here at the base. Holding that is amazing, and that's essentially what you're doing when you have your hands clasped and you're doing that. Like people look like they're relaxing. That's actually integrating the fear and the anger aspects of anger to calm down. And it's a great relaxer. And I don't know why I got onto that tangent, but I thought I was being relevant.
Oh, it's all useful information. Okay, here is a question for you. We have a live audience here. We have Jill.
Hello, live audience.
Well, they have names as well.
Oh, hello, people.
We have Jill who has joined us from Wales, and we have Jace who has joined from not too far from where I am. And Jace has a question for you. Jace is asking, would you say there's a distinction between public speaking and doing live videos? Oh, this is good.
Wow. Yes. Gosh. How have we got? Wow. Thank you, Jace. Wow. Public speaking, doing live videos. Doing live videos is a subset of public speaking, right? All speaking is public speaking. I'd like to say that as well. Even, you know, when you're speaking to yourself, you're more, sometimes, many times you're rehearsing what you're going to say to somebody else, aren't you? As I say, good public speaking comes from good private thinking. And basically, the thinking is talking to yourself in your mind, and, you know, yeah, you could say it's public, it's not, whatever. But doing a live video, okay, there's two things. Remind me of the second thing, is, yes, very much you're giving a presentation, a live video, and that's separate from presentations. A live video, you're literally speaking to people that you can't see. I've got Parol with me, and she's in a wonderful audience. I'm the kind of person, I love feedback from the audience. I love to see them interacting, and you're the perfect audience for a speaker like myself, a bit more extroverted. Other people who are more introverted, they get distracted by the audience's feedback, you know, or they get worried if somebody's not looking completely like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like they're really hanging on every word. And for me, the audience is human beings, they're all taking away different things, and that. So to try to be more focused with this answer, a live video, yes, you're not speaking necessarily to people that you can see. You're speaking to usually a host like yourself, and people who are watching live. And so for me, it's a bit more disconcerting, or used to be more disconcerting, to do a live. Even when I was a lecturer, and we had to prepare literally semesters worth of courses to have ready to go online in case of an emergency or some kind of situation like COVID. So you know, operationally ready. And I used to find that doing a video like this, I prefer it because I can see myself. I'm not wondering how I look to the audience. That not that I'm so vain, you know, the song is about me. But I find that a good thing for myself, just so I can check in and know that I'm not crazily playing my hair like I do when I'm relaxed. I used to do that before somebody observed it, of course, and now I do it when I'm relaxed, but not something like this. So when you're doing a Facebook Live or a live on camera in terms of web situation, then there are differences, you know, and it's just about trying different things out and seeing what works for you, as we say. Do what works for you and leave the rest, right? So does that answer your question, Jace? I hope it does. I hope it helps.
Jace, let us know in the comments, please. Does that help?
The other part to it is that, say, a lot of people are worried about, you know, viewers seeing their knees knocking, or those sort of things, that they worry about the body then, you know, betraying them when they're giving a presentation or a speech that's live, which wouldn't be the case on a Zoom situation, unless you're Martin or someone who does his videos standing up. I find that is not really conducive to me then, with because if you look down, you're going to access the kinesthetic part of you, and you're going to feel that earthing. When I want to be in my head, I want to be in my head and my joyful self, and that's more looking upwards. NLP people will know you're looking upwards. It makes you feel joyful, cheers you up, sees the positive aspect of things. If you want to get grounded, and then, you know, you can look down, and so looking down will access that part of your brain that gives the reality check and helps you see the real or the critical side of things, in essence.
Very interesting. Jace is saying, thanks, Carolyn. I'm overcoming doing lives. It is about relating to the audience via camera.
Cool.
I think a lot of people miss that connection, that feedback from the audience that they get when they have real people in the room with them. And
so much so. Yeah, so much so. And I've written about it somewhere, I forget where. Yeah, I gave a talk on the Visible Coaches about this, about, you know, about just for that exact point, right? If you're thinking about that, or it's on your mind, then just remember what you're like as an audience member, and treat yourself as you would like to be treated. So my maxim is to treat others as I would like to be treated, not as they would like to be treated, because it's usually the other way around. Treat others as they would like to be treated. Sorry, treat people as you would like to be treated. Like to treat them as they would like to be treated, and treat myself accordingly, right? So when in an audience situation, I'm naturally engaged because I want to make the most of my time and make the most of that connection, learn as much as I can. But a lot of people are thinking about their parking ticket or lunch or an argument with somebody or something else. Things are going to be on your mind. You can't be 100%, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed all at every presentation you attend, right? So, and sometimes the speaker's just not a cup of tea. And I don't know why I'm saying this right now, but sometimes when you give a speech or a presentation, it might not have that impact in that moment. It might have an impact down the line. I have so many of my public speaking students contact me on WhatsApp or I just changed my number after 25 years. Anyway, so on Facebook Messenger saying, oh, Carolyn, I just gave a speech to so many people and I remembered what you said about holding your fingers, or about I do a behind the curtains, before the curtains and thing, which I'll explain later. Doing that beforehand to get you mentally prepared and so on. They remember these little situations, these little snippets, but after the event and when it is useful. And that's great for people with brains like ADHD brains who need the information at that point in time when it's going to be applicable. So yeah, does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Jay says, yes, it helps.
Cool. Yeah, so just remember the audience might not be with you at the time, but their subconscious is taking it in and will definitely bring it to the fore when they need that information. Yeah. So nothing's wasted.
Yeah, I really found that piece of information very interesting when you talked about looking up and looking down, because when I'm doing a live video, what I'm doing most of the time is looking straight into the camera. That's it.
So, exactly.
Not looking up, not looking down.
For many people, yeah, this was really stressed in our NLP course. Our trainer really went to town with it because, talking about eye accessing cues and seeing how different people are differently wired. So, and apparently this is true that people use it to assess if somebody's lying, for example, and if I say to you, what color are the flowers next to your window without looking? Next to your mirror, sorry, without looking?
Red.
Right, you can see them in your screen.
No, I know them.
That's a silly example. Okay, now I'm gonna look you in the eye. Okay, I know my camera's not perfectly placed, but that's because of stuff going on that side. What color were your trainers, or what color did you say your trainers were?
Orange, more orange than pink. I remember that we had that.
What color was your bicycle?
What color is my bicycle? Violet. Your
bicycle here in London?
Oh yes, I have a bike here in London.
Okay, what color was your bicycle? What color was your bicycle on holiday over the weekend?
Oh, blue.
Okay, see, you're amazing. Yeah, because it's hard to tell on camera, but in NLP they use this eye accessing cues, and this is partly the basis of the hypnosis I do. So we look up and back, and you access a certain part of your brain that accesses the alpha brainwaves. Yada yada. I'm not going to hypnotize anybody today. Anyhow, so you look up, and that's you're looking up, and you're accessing the positive part of and the optimist, right? The visual cues are looking up, and then if you look up and left, for different people are wired differently. Looking up and left will help you remember something from the past that you've seen, and looking up and right will help you imagine something in the future of how something is going to look. So if you're a painter, you might look up and right and access those cues there, that part of the brain, to help you decide how to design what you're going to paint, for example. That just came out of nowhere. If you, the middle line accesses the auditory sphere, realm, whatever you want to call it. So if you look left, then you're going to remember something from the past, right? So hence they use this to determine whether somebody's lying, because if they look right, then they're imagining what they would say if it were true. Does that make sense? That they would hear themselves say. So yeah, I don't know how I'm wired. I have no idea. Looking down accesses your feelings, like I was saying just now, accesses your feelings, your gut, and the reality of, oh my God, I'm giving a speech, and it's really scary. And that more kinesthetic vibe And I'm never grounded, am I? So people are like, will you chill down? Why are you so, oh my God, somebody told me the other day, quick snippet. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, you know, I can, and this is a fellow therapist. She said, I just talked about my book on anxiety. She said, oh, I can hear the anxiety in your voice. And I'm like, that's funny, because most people, I just read this, right? So I'm discovering all about ADHD. You know, better late than never. And that people with ADHD, I mean, my best friend, my ex-fiance's mummy said, you're so aerated and light, and you know, that's my students used to say, why are you crazy? I'm like, no, I'm just happy to be here, because I've overcome all the obstacles, you know, fire and hell and high water to make it here on time. Happy I've made it, and genuinely happy to be alive, right? But people hear that, a sense of urgency in the breathing, and it's not, it's genuine excitement, it's genuine joie de vivre, and then you think, oh my God, was that okay? Which is why I tell people to write down 3 good things after everything that they've done in terms of performance to other people, so as to reinforce the quality and the fact that they showed up and that they were there and they did what, you know, they did their best at the time, right? So that's what advice I give to people who are doing any sort of presentations at all. But we are a bit, I don't know. Yeah, I like to learn from things. So then say 3 things you're going to do well the next time, because your next speech is your best speech.
Yes.
And holding the finger just helps to ground all of that, and doing this helps to ground all of that. And yeah, you know, so thank you. We still got a couple of minutes. So
yep.
Yeah, doing that, you know, doing this one. Oh yes, and the one that really is great for partners is this, right? Holding with somebody's shoulders. That's very loving, because that you're doing the 11s, which is balance, and you're doing the 22s, which for adjustment, assimilation, all of that. You're holding those, giving them some love, TLC, helping to harmonize that bust line, which is all about the spiritual body, to help somebody. So be it your partner, be it your friend, be it anything. And you know, when you're doing that, what's it called, the locomotion, right? That's a fun thing to do. So I get people to do the locomotion in my workshops. So hold for a while, and you can do that with Reiki, and the Reiki will start, the Reiki Undo with music. Then you start to sway and get the music on, and then go around the room. Invariably, you know, people start that, don't they? So it's fun. And in class we do that as well. It's fun. Yeah, another very loving one, if you're very intimate with somebody, is to sandwich their groin and their thumbs, right? Their coccyx area. Of course, and the best thing to do is do it for yourself, because you're giving self-love to your very physical plane and helping healing for the bones, healing for anything physical to take place, because you're really concentrating on that physical line. That's another fun one I like to share. Here is for real exhaustion. You know, people do this when they're really in despair, and that helps the whole energy circuit down the front, up the back, that cosmic egg, right, to settle down and harmonize. So again, our body knows, right? We do this, you know, when you're in despair, and it helps somehow, but we don't know why. And the reason it helps is because you're helping them, what we call the main central, to then take effect and harmonize the whole system. So cool. So the body knows. Yeah.
Fantastic. You know, I've just, when you were doing this, I was reminded of what I'm watching on Netflix. I've not very long ago discovered Korean dramas.
Right.
And they are mind-blowing. I mean, that's probably the best TV I have watched. Wow. From a storytelling and acting point of view. And they do this to make, I'm looking at myself in a mirror image, so it's going all wonky. So this is how they would make a heart, how we would do this. Right. They would make a big heart like this.
Yeah, that's why I do that emoji a lot, this one. Yeah.
So that's really cute.
It really is. Yeah.
Oh, wow, Carolyn. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this wealth of knowledge with us.
Yeah. So, you know, And just to talk about wealth, I mean, if we're talking about wealth per se and abundance, then you want to think about the number 10, which is the number of abundance, which is in the middle of the shoulder blade here, the scapula, the inside, that middle bit, which you can't really reach. So the equivalent is the number 1, the inner knee. And the equivalent actually is the 13s here, that sore spot in EFT, exactly that, the third rib down roughly. So that awesome spot in Jinshin is the fountain of youth, but it also is a substitute for the 10, which is all about wealth and abundance. So I did get to the point. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. So my favorite way of people getting in touch with me is Facebook Messenger, through my Facebook, Carolyn Street. I'm right here in your group, and I love being here. It's such a Naveen today. We're in the right place. So yeah, drop me a private message, a DM, you know, one of those DMs, and a private message. And I also have I'll put my links at the bottom. I have my my embarrassing webpage, which is holisticcoachsd.com. And I'm also inviting people to have a look at the book, which is Anxiety and Us. It's on Kindle and Amazon, finally out in its real form. There are a couple of glitches. And we also have a Facebook group that goes with that. And that addresses anxiety predominantly, but it's a series basically of the ones that I mentioned earlier, according to the Jinshin structure of anxiety, sadness, anger, fear, and the trying to more inauthenticity, and then the all-encompassing, which will be frustration. I haven't found a name for it yet. So that's a good group to check out, because it's all of us, the contributors to that series, will be sharing snippets and bits and bobs on there. So I'll put all those things in the comments.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much again for coming and talking to us. I absolutely loved our conversation.
Me too. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jace, for joining us live. I'm going to stop the live streaming now. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.